Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Listen, we are super excited that we have relaunched our podcast. And we want to make sure that you are fundable and that you are ready for funding. Most of the people that start their nonprofit organizations ask the question, where's the money, right? Where is the money? You've heard start a nonprofit, you can get a grant, you can get funding, you could get donations, you could get sponsors, right? The idea of starting a nonprofit closely aligns with money. However, we've been talking about the struggle, the difficulty, right? The stress of after you started your nonprofit organization, having difficulty identifying where the money is, right? You started your nonprofit organization, you have your 501c3, and now you're struggling with getting the grant. Now you're having difficulty finding donors, finding sponsors, finding contributors. Now you are having to pay for everything out of your own pocket. Now you are working with trying to identify board members who can also help the organization generate funding. You may be paying for everything out of your own pocket, right? So you may be asking yourself, where is the money? Where's the money? How come I have started this work? I'm helping people, but now I'm having difficulty getting the money. I want to talk to you today about your first structural moves, right? The moves that you need to make within your organization after getting your 501c3 and what the funders, the donors, the supporters, the contributors, those capital issuing authorities, what do they expect you to build before the money shows up? Now, this is a part of the conversation that no one talks about but me. You understand? I'm the one that is sharing this information with you. I am pulling back the veil. Who am I? I am Jennifer. I am your nonprofit expert, over 39 years of experience helping organizations put together plans, strategies, systems, and tools, the structure within your organization to ensure that you have what it takes, what is needed, what is required to bring in the money. All right. The money is a fruit. The money is a fruit. So money is not your problem. Money is a fruit, or the money or lack thereof, the lack of funding is a symptom. All right. If you say to yourself, Jen, we don't have funding. Jen, we don't have donors. Jen, we don't have supporters. Jen, we don't have contributors. That is a symptom of the problem that you did not put your structure together. We didn't put our fundraising structure together, Jen. We didn't put our donor acquisition structure together, Jen. We didn't put together our communication structure to reach, to introduce, to clarify, to who would be our donors and our funders, right? So your lack of funding, your lack of organizational support is a symptom. The problem that has resulted, right, that you're seeing in the symptom of we don't have funding means we did not put together what the funder needs to see, to receive, to understand before they give us the money. All right? Money is a fruit. At the root, why is there no money? I don't have a plan to raise it. I don't know how to raise it. I didn't put together a strategy to raise it, right? Our organizational infrastructure, our structure is not set up to raise the funds or to give the donor, the funder, the supporter, the contributor what they need in order to choose or to trust our organization with their money. Am I making sense in what I'm saying? All right. So today I want to really break it down for you that these are the first 6 structural moves that you want to make after getting your 501c3. Now, for those of you that have been following me for a while, you know I am not the girl that tells you to go get that paperwork first, but y'all gonna do what you gonna do, huh? So I'm gonna tell you, if you gonna do that first, I don't advise it, but some of y'all gonna do that anyway, then these are the top 6 things that you must do first, okay? Listen, after the paperwork, after the paperwork, okay? Let's talk about what happens right after your nonprofit status is approved. Okay? You get the letter in the mail. You get that the letter from the IRS. It is a determination letter. What does that determination letter say? That determination letter says that your application for recognition of exemption under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code has been approved. Okay? So that letter says you now are determined, you are recognized now as tax exempt because that is the paperwork that you completed. The 1023 form is an application of recognition of exemption under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. So you get the letter in the mail that says your determination as tax exempt, your application was accepted and approved. You now are a tax exempt organization as recognized under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. Okay? You get that letter. And now you feel validated. You feel official, right? And then you ask the question, now what? Now, most of you were told start a nonprofit and then apply for grants. Am I right? Start a nonprofit, then apply for grants. But what you weren't told is that the paperwork is the starting line, not the finish line. It's the starting line. It's not the finish line, okay? The funding, the money, the grant, the cash, the donations does not activate at approval. Responsibility does. I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. That once your organization now is approved, funding is not activated. Responsibility is activated. All right? Why most of you are doing the wrong thing next, right? Because now here's what usually happens. You do the paperwork. You think that now that you're official, now that you've got your 501c3, that that's going to activate money, right? That's going to activate your access, your ability, your capability to funding. And so here's what you do next. You launch your program. You launch your program or you expand your program. You host an event, right? You start spending money. You start spending money on websites. You start spending money on program. You start spending money on materials and supplies. You start spending money on space. You start spending money on all the things to operate the organization, right? Why? Because you were under the impression, right, that activity of the program, you getting real busy, getting your name out there, right? Somebody said, start your nonprofit, get your name out there. So now you're spending money immediately because you believe that the activity that we're doing, helping people, feeding the homeless, giving out backpacks, giving away toys at the holidays, right? All of this activity is what's going to create credibility. But your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, those capital issuing authorities, they don't measure activity first. Did you hear what I said? They don't measure activity first. Now, I don't know who y'all been listening to, but clearly it's not someone that has nonprofit experience. And I mean experience from the place of how do we connect? How do we communicate? How do we show? How do we introduce what we do to the donor, the funder, the supporter, and the contributor, right? It's not the activity. that they measure first. They're not drawn to your busyness. They measure structure. So instead of asking, how do we do more? Right? Jen, we need to do more program. Jen, we need to expand our program. Jen, we need to do more activity. No, the real question should be, what do we need to build? Not how do we do more? Jen, we need funding so we can do more of this. We need money so we can do more. No, what do we now need to build? I'm going to give you the first six structural moves that your donors, your funders, those capital issuing authorities, what they expect. Okay. Move number one, clarify the organization, not just the program. I'm going to say that again. Clarify the organization, not just the program. Remember that when you start your nonprofit organization, you start with two hats. The first hat is an expense. That's the program. The second hat is the one that generates the revenue. That's the organization. Most of you only put the first hat together, the program, right? We're doing more. We're serving the community. We're helping people, right? But that's only spending money. You did not put together the organizational hat or the organizational structure that is designed to generate the revenue to pay for hat one. Okay? So you've got to, number one, clarify the organization, not just the program. All right? Many of you are very clear on who we serve, what our program does, right? What we want to do. But your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, those capital issuing authorities, they want clarity on what's the organization responsible for. They want clarity on what the organization is responsible for. They want clarity on how are decisions made? How does money flow? This means clearly defining your mission. Your mission is not a description. It is not an explanation of what you do. It is who has the problem and how are we going to solve it, right? So they want to know why do you exist? Tell me about this work and why is it important? That's what your mission does, right? So that means you've got to be able to clearly define your mission, the vision of the organization. Again, not just what you want to do, not an explanation of why you started or what the Lord said. No disrespect to the Lord. But come on. Your organizational purpose, the scope of work. If the organization itself is unclear, then funding conversations, considerations of money that would be invested in your work will stall immediately. Did you hear what I said? If the donor, the funder, the supporter, the contributor, those capital issuing authorities, if they don't see the urgency for the work, they don't see that you have a clear vision, you have a clear purpose, you have a clear plan or a scope of work of how you're going to accomplish the mission. We know that you're busy. We know that you want to do the work of the program. But is it important? Can you convey it? Can you talk about it? Can you clarify it? Can you describe not just what you do, but why does it matter? Why does it matter now? What's at stake if the mission is not accomplished? How does your accomplishing the mission benefit the community? Are you hearing what I'm saying? This is organizational language. This is your brand. This is your marketing. This is what you are communicating to the community. If your organization is unclear, I'm not talking about your program because that's a whole different hat now. Let me say it this way also. If the organization is not able to clarify the mission, the importance of the mission, the purpose of the organization, and why we're doing this work, the scope of work, then your board can't do it. They don't know how to speak about it. If the organization itself is not structured to clarify, to introduce, to articulate, to explain, to engage, then those that you bring into the organization are not able to do it either, which is why your board is mute, which is why they don't know what to say. They don't know how to begin. Why? Because it's not clear for the organization. If it were clear, then you would be able to give to your board, to your community supporters, your contributors, you'd be able to have in conversation what it is that we do, right? So if you're not able to clarify to a donor who is considering investing their money why this works matter, then you can't be surprised that they're not going to move quickly to invest in their money. Am I making sense? All right. So that's move number one. Move number two is that you've got to build real governance. All right. The board is not a formality. The board is not just a formality. For those of you that are trying to get board members, right? Just get people to stack the board. The board is not a formality. The funders are asking, the donors are asking, the capital issuing authorities are asking, who oversees the decisions that are being made by the leadership? Why is that important? Because the leadership has the power, has the responsibility, has the opportunity to steward the funds coming into the organization, right? You and the board working together are wanting to build trust with the community. So the board is able to work with the leadership, you, the executive director, and your leadership team within your organization as that grows, to share, to assure, to convey to the community that their dollars invested into your organization can be trusted. Otherwise, the money is just being where? Just being spent, coming in and spending any old kind of way. No, the oversight is important. The oversight, the credibility, the stewardship is an opportunity. It's not a formality. It shouldn't be seen as a burden. It should be seen as an opportunity. Okay? Not just another task. They also want to see who's going to review the finances. It's the public's money. They want to know how are decisions being made. They want to be assured that their dollars are being stewarded properly and carefully and not used frivolously. Right? Again, that's your opportunity to build trust with the community. They want to know who ensures accountability. This means you have an active board members. You have defined roles and responsibilities. You have regular meetings. You have governance, not just management. If you, as the founder, you're running everything, you're controlling everything. You're controlling how money is spent. You're controlling how decisions are made around the money. You actually are spending more money than you're bringing in. You're commingling your money with the organization's money, which is not appropriate. All right. You're running the board as well. That is a red flag. It does not convey confidence. It does not convey competence. It does not convey financial responsibility. It does not show that you care about the public's money. All right. Move number three. You've got to create financial visibility. And this is where many organizations, nonprofits panic. Many of you started with just passion in mind, right? And so when the grant funder asks you for your financials or they ask you about your budget, you may literally panic because you may be thinking, I don't know how to put that together. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do first, right? And you might find it to be overwhelming because that's not what you put much thought in. You put much more thought in the program, what you want to do within the program, not necessarily how do we run this? How do we sustain this? How do we steward the resources? How much money do we need regularly? Right? You didn't put that much thought. So when someone asks you about the financials, you may panic. But listen, it doesn't have to be complex. It means that you have an operating budget. That means you have a separation of funds. That means you're tracking income and expenses. That means your board is working with you, right, for the financial oversight to ensure that you're not overspending, to ensure that the monies that you are responsible for coming into the organization from the public is stewarded well. The donors, the funders, the supporters, the contributors, those capital issuing authorities are not asking if you're rich. They're asking if you are responsible with the money. And when you say, no, Jen, we don't have a budget. No, Jen, we don't have financials. No, Jen, we don't have a plan. No, I have my bank statements, but we're not really tracking expenses. We're not really tracking revenue. No, we're just spending money as it comes in. That means you're not responsible with the public's money. Okay. Move number four, define how you raise money. Define how you raise money. If the answer to how do you fund your work, right? A donor, a supporter, a contributor, they may ask you, where does money come from? How do you fund the work? And if your answer is, oh, we apply for grants, or we have fundraisers, or I'm paying for everything out of my pocket, that's not a strategy. Did you hear what I said? That's not a strategy. They want to see a diversified revenue. What does a diversified revenue mean? You guys know I talk about you having 15 streams of revenue, 15 ways or paths, avenues that which cash comes into your organization. They want to see that they're not your only funding source. They want to see that you have the system, the structure, the capability, the capacity to keep the work coming in. Otherwise, you get the money, spend the money, and now we're stuck again, right? They want to see that you have a plan and a strategy to maintain the work, a diversified funding stream. They want to see that you have donor cultivation, right? That you have the means, the systems, the strategies, the tools to maintain those streams of revenue that as they come in, that you have the system for them to keep coming in. Not just a one and done. They made a donation, but you never hear from them again. They made a gift, but you never hear from them again. They came to an event, but you never hear from them again. No, they want to see that you have the structure, the internal structure to keep donations and contributions coming in, that you have a fundraising plan, that you are realistic in your sustainability, not just spending money as it comes in. No, you realistically have a plan, have a process, have a strategy for sustainability. Grants are a tool, they're not the foundation. They're not your only means of money. I know that that's what you hear most, right? Start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. But a grant is not right now money. A grant funds the future. And it's only for a period of time. So after those grant dollars have been spent, where's money coming from? You still got to have other streams of revenue, right? Move number 5, build basic systems, right? There are organizational systems that are basic, all right? If everything works only when you do it, that's a risk. You're the founder. You're the one that started it. If everything works only when you do it, when you're present, that's a risk. You need a system, internal system, structure for finances, for donor management, for program tracking, for reporting, for communications, right? This is how organizations survive leadership transitions and growth. All right. These are basic systems. Move number 6, plan for accountability and reporting. Plan for accountability and reporting. Your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, those capital issuing authorities, they assume that they will receive updates. That grant funder assumes that they're going to get a report. They assume that outcomes, result, impact will be tracked. They assume that compliance will be met, right? So you want to plan for that as a part of your organizational structure. That means data collection. That means reporting deadlines. That means documentation. Listen, accountability is not punishment, it's partnership. Did you hear what I said? It's partnership. That you were able to share, you're able to communicate, you're able to clarify, you're able to describe to those that are supporting your work how their money is spent. It's partnership. It shows them and conveys to them that you are a good partner, that you are reporting, you are clarifying, you are describing how their money was spent. Can you imagine that the number one reason that people stop giving to nonprofit organizations is because they don't know where their money went? I don't know where my money went. I gave them a donation, I gave them a contribution. I never heard from them again. I don't know where their money went. And so, what does that mean? They're not inclined, they're not inspired to give you any more money. You broke partnership. Okay? So, reporting as a part of your infrastructure is important. Let me tell you this, when you guys get this right, it changes everything. Everything. When these 6 pieces are in place, funding conversations change. Funding conversations change from we need money to this is what your dollars enabled us to do. And this is the result of our work. This is the success that we've been able to achieve through our partnership. This is the cost per person. And this is how your dollars has enabled us to bring about change. That together we are changing and impacting and improving our community. Can you understand that? That when these systems are in place, you're not begging for money. You are showing, you are sharing, you are conveying, you are articulating the benefit. You are letting them know that they can trust your organization with their dollars. When these things are in place in your organization, grant questions make sense. Donors stay longer. Boards are able to engage more. They know what to say, they know how to say it. They're able to celebrate the success that the organization is having with the money. Not just we need the money, no, right? And you, as the founder, the executive director, you can breathe because now these conversations aren't hard, right? Now you're not avoiding the conversations. Let me tell you something. It's like fire shut up in your bones. When you're able to lead with, our organization is a real benefit to the community. And this is the problems that we solve each and every day. And through our program, we've seen an improvement in the area of need, right? That we are truly benefiting as an asset, as a partner to the community every single day. That's not hard when your systems are in place because you're no longer asking, where's the money? You're saying, here's how we operate responsibly. Listen, fundraising, as I say to you, is not about money. Raising money from people who are not in your program is not about money. It's about trust. It's about growing your trust with your community. Do they feel that they can trust your organization with their support? Let me close with this. Starting a nonprofit does not mean paperwork filed and now your program has started. That's not what starting a nonprofit is. Many of you think that I have everything, Jen. I filed my paperwork. I have everything because I filed my paperwork and we're official. That's not what starting a paperwork. That's not what starting a nonprofit is. It means that your organization is built. Money, funding doesn't come because you care. Funding comes when the funders, the donors, the supporters, the sponsors, the contributors, those capital issuing authorities, funding comes when they can trust you to manage the money. And trust is built through structure, not your passion, not what you want to do, and not the paperwork. If you've already started serving, if you've already started doing the work, that's good. That's good. But now it's time to build what sustains that service. Okay? Because nonprofits don't struggle from lack of mission or lack of passion or lack of intention. They struggle when structure comes last. If funding is your biggest challenge, if getting donors and supporters and contributors is your biggest challenge, is finding board members to help you raise money, you are right now experiencing lack of structure. Lack of structure. Internally, Jim, within the organization, we don't have the systems, the tools, the explanation, the plan, the strategy to sustain this organization. We don't. We have a program. We know what we want to do within the program, but we don't have anything to support that program being supported or sustained. no explanation, no articulation to the community of why this work matters. That's structure. Okay. Listen, I hope that I have corrected some false startup expectations. I hope I've given you some clarity on what you can do right now. Begin to do work right now. I want to reduce the fear and the confusion that comes with starting a nonprofit, but not really understanding how do we run the nonprofit? How does the nonprofit operate day to day? How do we invite, engage, inspire others to want to support this work on an ongoing basis? I hope I've clarified from the donor's perspective, from the funder's perspective, not just your perspective of passion and wanting to do the work and wanting to make a difference. I hope that I've given you some insight into what is it that they need to see, your supporters, your contributors, those that would be investing in your work. I hope I've opened your eyes of what's possible. Money is not your problem. Money is not your problem. Organizational structure is. All right? The knowledge, the understanding of how does the organization work? How does the organization, not the program, how does the organization structure itself to ensure that you have the reach, the connection, the clarity, the engagement, the interest of your community? Because that's where your money comes from. Okay? Listen, I want to invite those of you that say, Jen, you're absolutely right. I started my organization and I thought it was the program. We got our paperwork and we began doing the program work immediately. And now I understand why we're struggling. All you got to do is put your structure together. Without the structure, your organization is probably losing about $300,000 a year in funding potential because you're not able to show, to share, to communicate, to clarify to the funders that you are structured properly. So you're likely losing those grants. You're probably getting those grant rejections. You're probably not getting the donors, the funders, the supporters. You might have had a few events, but then after the event, those that participated or came to the event never gave again. You're likely paying for everything out of your pocket. And now you're not able to scale. You're doing everything by yourself. Your visibility is probably lacking, right? You're not doing that work. And as a result, that is missed funding opportunities every day. Every day it's adding up. That as long as your structure is not in place, every day you're missing out on the opportunity to raise money. All right? If you're ready to have that question and if you're ready to fix it, I want you to comment ready or reach out to me and say, Jen, I'm ready to have the conversation, because you're absolutely right. We did not put our organization together. Not because you didn't care, likely because you didn't know, right? You just didn't know. If I'm talking to you, I would love to be able to work with you. My team and I can have your organization set up within the next 45 to 60 days. And now you're in position to give the donor, the funder, the supporter, those capital issuing authorities, what they need to see within your organization. My name is Jennifer. I am your nonprofit expert. And I want to thank you for listening. And I hope that this has been helpful. All right. I'll see you all next time.